Hello and welcome. I'm Namara and thank you so much for joining me for today's presentation, Reclaim Your Fertility, and how to do that by doing to conceive as opposed to trying to conceive. And this is a concept that I came up with quite some time ago as I witnessed how many people are getting stuck for months or years in the web of trying to conceive and are not moving their journeys forward as quickly as they would like to. So today I'm going to be sharing with you some truths around infertility, unexplained infertility, the age concerns that people are having, why people are having unsuccessful IVF treatments, and how you can overcome these and many other common fertility challenges in 5 very practical steps. So thank you for joining me on this journey, and just keep an open mind as I go through, because I'll be presenting to you some, I guess, quite new ideas and concepts and ways of overcoming fertility challenges. So keep an open mind and an open heart as we go through. But before we start, I would like to share with you just who I am and why I'm sharing this with you today. So my name is Namara Wild and I'm the founder of Reclaim Your Fertility, and I've been specializing in assisting women and their partners who've had fertility challenges to empower not just their bodies but also their minds, specifically so that they can conceive easily and enjoy healthy pregnancies. My background is I used to own a Hawaiian massage center in Sydney, which was quite well known. It's there that I actually first came to really understand the power of massage in helping people to overcome fertility challenges. And for very many years there, myself and my team helped countless women to what I call open their bodies to pregnancy. So basically to bring energy, life force, blood, warmth to the abdomen area and also the reproductive organs specifically, but also just to prepare that whole environment through touch to be ready, healthy, prepared to receive and grow a baby. I also in that time ran a lot of detox healing retreats where I began to understand the power of food and the power of food in healing our bodies, and how just even within a couple of days people could have profound rejuvenation of their bodies, literally through drinking lots of just really good clean water and eating lots of detoxing, cleansing, live foods. A few years ago I created a health tool called the Proper, and I'll be introducing you to that later on, so stick with me on that. And that one is helping people to overcome challenges of the system of elimination. So as we know, so many people today, and particularly women, are experiencing a lot of bowel issues, and these, I believe, are also impacting our ability to conceive easily and to have full-term healthy pregnancies. My real desire in life is to really understand how to keep our bodies well into old age, so that we live well beyond the accepted ages, and that we have a foundation of health and well-being. We look to health and well-being as our right, as our birthright, and we live from there. And I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist, and I use everything I've learned in my life to date through massage, detoxing, fasting, diet, mindset and hypnotherapy to assist the clients that I work with to overcome their fertility challenges. And even though I'd been working with women for many years through my business in Sydney and helping people to conceive through massage, it wasn't until I worked with my sister just over 10-11 years ago now, when she had been on her journey to conceive for many years without success. And when we worked together for a few weeks when I was in Ireland, she conceived soon after, and I'd like to share a little bit more about that story shortly. So before we dive straight into the sort of main content, I want to just share with you something to keep in mind, and that is how your mind actually works. Now, as we go through, I'd like you to remember these. Your mind does what it thinks you want it to do. It has to, because its job is to keep you alive on the planet. It also responds to the pictures and the words in your head. So whatever you are saying or thinking or even visualizing in your head, it will respond to that, and it'll respond to that thinking that that's what you want. This is very, very important around expectation and expectation on the journey to bringing a baby into the world. Your mind will drive you towards what's familiar, and it will keep you well away from what's unfamiliar, because to the primal mind, the familiar keeps you safe. The unfamiliar could be a cause of danger. Its primary job is to do all it can to keep you alive on this planet and away from pain. And that's the one I really, really want you to remember as we go through this presentation. Your mind's job is to do everything that it can to keep you alive on this planet and away from pain. Okay. I've been thinking a lot about the cycle of a woman's life in relation to pregnancy, and giving it some more thought. It's actually very, very interesting what I noticed, and that is, when we're young girls, when we're teens, we are taught from an early age to fear pregnancy. And I know this is all understandable, but it's not a judgment, it's an observation, and the observation is critical in terms of the amount of people that are experiencing fertility challenges in this day and age. So in Western culture, when we are teenagers, young girls, young women, we are thought to fear pregnancy. And it's understandable. Nobody wants their child becoming pregnant when they're in school, when they're going to college. Teen pregnancy isn't, a joy for anybody in the family or the community. And again, understandable, but it sets the mind up to fear pregnancy and to fear having a baby. Then we go into our 20s, and, we're going to either go to college or start our careers, and we're experiencing autonomy, we're experiencing being ourselves and having freedom for the first time. And from there, again, totally understandable, but we go on to medicate and protect against pregnancy. And we also will be carrying a certain amount of fear around potentially becoming pregnant, or indeed stress if we do become pregnant. And that also leads into pregnancy scares. And the interesting thing with pregnancy scares is, and most women will have experienced at least one of these, but with a pregnancy scare, we go into terrible fear at the thought that we may be pregnant. And it's the wrong time in life, our life could be over. There's a lot of doom and gloom associated with that, a lot of fear about being a mum too young, being a single mum, or being with the wrong person. And then, of course, the scare ends, and there's delight, there's joy, there's happiness that we're not pregnant. So, yay, it's a great thing not to be pregnant and not to be having a baby. And this kind of thinking, this conditioning, if you like, goes on for years, maybe even decades. Then we get into our 30s, and there's around the time that we start to think about becoming pregnant. Why? Because we might be in the right relationship. We've got stability in our lives, have a home, have a job we love, etc. Just been married, or even unmarried, doesn't matter, but, the time's right. The desire is there. However, what's there underneath the conscious desire is the subconscious conditioning that went on for years, that pregnancy, having a baby, is a negative thing, and to the mind would cause you pain. So how do we break those how do we break those years of conditioning? And do they break that quickly? Are they part of the reason that so many people struggle for so long, months or years, trying to break this conditioning that, for the most part, most people don't really think of, yet it's there. That is part of our reality if you have grown up in Western culture. If you've grown up in another culture, it might be different, but in Western cultures, most women are really conditioned to avoid at all costs becoming pregnant until they're married and at a certain point. And looking at this cycle, I feel that the only way to get through this cycle is to break it. And we break it by doing to conceive, by knowing that it's a possibility, and reconditioning the subconscious mind to know and believe that you being pregnant is now a good thing. It's going to bring you pleasure, not pain, and it's going to be a joyous thing for you. And shortly I'll be sharing with you how we can do that. Alrighty. So why do I do this work? Well, what I've observed over the years is that pregnancy is a really interesting area. It brings up a lot of fear. It really undermines people. Normally powerful, empowered people in their lives start to feel like failures, start to not believe in themselves. They become helpless and hopeless really very, very quickly. The other thing I've noticed, which I think is interesting, is people really feel that they have no control over their ability to conceive and have a baby. And I would have to argue to the contrary, because to my mind, this is an area that you have more control over than anything else. This is about your body, your mind. It's all within you. Everything you have is within you and your partner and your donor. Just the right conditions may not have been activated for it to happen. But I also think this idea of feeling like a failure just because you can't conceive is becoming too common and is not a helpful idea for anyone. It's just also not a truth. The conditions are not right. Something is here telling you that something is wrong, but it's not that you're a failure. The other thing I have witnessed is that a lot of my clients, a lot of people I've spoken to, have been really encouraged into IVF and other reproductive technologies quite quickly in their journey. And even to the point that I've seen a lot of my young friends over the years, and by young I mean early 30s, freezing their eggs, just in case. I mean, no judgment, but it's all coming out of fear. The leap between what's referred to as trying to conceive and going to these various reproductive technologies is just becoming smaller, smaller, smaller. And the reason for that is people do not know that there are other possibilities, that there are ways that they can conceive, and there are methodologies that they can use, and there are ways to get there before going through medical intervention. And for me, you know, if anything is going wrong in the ability to conceive, if there's a delay to a woman becoming pregnant, it is an indication from the body and the mind. It's a message that something needs to be looked at. Your body needs attention. You need attention from you. It doesn't necessarily mean that there has to be a very quick leap to intervention. And the other thing on this point that I've really kind of observed is fertility. For some reason, the reproductive organs, fertility, they're almost seen as something separate from general health. And I think this has got a lot to do with our Western medical paradigm, which sees all the areas of the body in separation. So again, it leads to people feeling that they have no control over their fertile health when it's something that's sort of separate from them. And something that often people don't really know an awful lot about their reproductive organs. They have spent a lifetime with them, but haven't really connected with them outside of sexual activity. But even then, not giving too much thought to the reproductive system itself. And so there's just a lack of knowing, a lack of knowledge. So in the next 60 minutes, what I want to share with you is how you can actually overcome common fertility challenges so that you can actually go on to succeed and have your baby or babies. And why it's vital to prepare for your pregnancy so that you can conceive first time round or indeed this time round. I'll be sharing with you how you can prepare your womb, your entire body, and your mind, and why that's critical so you can conceive easily and actually go on to have a full-term, joyful, healthy pregnancy. I'll also be sharing today the sexual position that you should, or indeed could, be using to make your baby. Yes, there is a position that will really, really help you, and we were designed to procreate in that position. Today I won't be sharing all the usual information that you know, because it's out there in abundance. In my experience, most of the people I work with, they know how to chart, they know about how to track their ovulation, what supplements to take, etc. I don't share that stuff. Most people know it already. But also, part of the reason I don't share it is I actually don't think it's that important if you do some other things correctly. It's important, but not in isolation. So, I'm going to dive into something that I witness as an incredibly big problem. A big problem on the path of a couple, an individual conceiving. And that is the diagnosis. When somebody goes to a doctor or a fertility specialist and they get a diagnosis, whatever that is, it could be an unexplained infertility diagnosis, which I believe is one of the worst because it tells you nothing, or an infertility diagnosis, could be anything, blocked tubes, etc. It's what the problem here is it's actually an opinion. It's not a fact, it's not a truth, it's certainly not an absolute. But what happens with a diagnosis is that when somebody who's a specialist or somebody who's, a reputable medical specialist tells you that you can't conceive, tells you that you're infertile, it actually ends up being a sort of unintentional medical sorcery. Because once you get told that diagnosis, it's very, very difficult for an individual to overcome it. If a doctor tells you you're infertile, how can you turn around then and believe that you can have your baby? It takes hope away. The other thing that I found really interesting with the conventional medical system around this, and it's not that I've anything against the medical system. The medical system is great for trauma. Very happy to have it for that, but not so great when it comes to general health and well-being, and even around fertility. Because if you went to a traditional Chinese medical practitioner, an naturopathist, a herbalist, a homeopath, an Ayurvedic doctor, they look for the cause of the problem. They look for the cause of the fertility challenge. They're not just looking at and treating symptoms. And that is a very, very big difference. So I want you to consider the idea of rejecting the opinion, whether it's an infertility diagnosis, concerns about your age, which is massive, whether people believe it or not. I come across so many people that are freaking out basically around their age, and it does not have to be that way. So just because you've not become pregnant within a certain time frame does not mean at all that your body is infertile. It's very, very important you get it's an opinion. And just because your doctor, your fertility specialist, they cannot find a medical reason that to date, you have not become pregnant, does not mean that you are infertile. Yes, if there's an extended delay to becoming pregnant, there is obviously a fertility challenge. But you cannot let that diagnosis define you. Because with the right proven preparation approach, you can, and you will, if you want to, impact your fertile health and reclaim your fertile health. So, as I said, yes, there's concerns possibly about age, health, lifestyle. Stress is a massive, massive factor, and in some ways underrated. I'll be talking about that shortly. This idea of trying, having tried fertility treatments, there may have been loss of a pregnancy. there may be real concerns about the health of your reproductive organs. But having PCOS, endometriosis, fibroids, blocked tubes, these conditions can affect the reproductive organs, they can affect your fertile health. However, they do not in and of themselves imply infertility. And in fact, when you do some of the work, the doing to conceive work, you can positively impact most, if not all, of these conditions. You can, in fact, positively influence most of these conditions through diet, detox, and fasting alone. So the danger in accepting that diagnosis and believing I am infertile is you are literally telling your mind, I'm infertile. Now, as mentioned before, your job's mind is to believe everything you think and everything you say. So once it believes that, it becomes a limiting belief, and that does impact the body, because the body has to do what the mind tells it as well. So effectively, and this is a sad thing, it doesn't even matter whether the diagnosis, the opinion is true or false. What really matters is whether you let it in, whether you believe it's true. Because first we make our beliefs, and then our beliefs make us. So I mentioned earlier that I worked with my sister over a decade ago. And just to give you some context, she received an unexplained infertility diagnosis at the age of 35. She went on to experience 5 failed IVF cycles over 5 years. By the time we came to work together, obviously she was in probably a lack of belief at this point that it could and would ever happen for her. She may even have given up hope by then. So the first thing I got her to do was to reject the diagnosis, to let it go. It's an opinion, it is not a truth. And we started doing the work to conceive. And most of the work that I did with her was mindset and massage. And with over a few weeks of consistent weekly massage, she became pregnant naturally in her early 40s. Now, she was never infertile. She was never too old. So rejecting the diagnosis is not easy to do unless you have something else to do, which means taking other action steps. And this is the basis of doing to conceive. One of the greatest things we can do is change our diet, drink lots and lots of good, clean water. But a very foundational thing that we can do is to actually start the work of preparing our abdomen, our reproductive organs to conceive. And I call this spring cleaning the baby's first room. So if you can look at this idea, the baby's first room is your womb and your abdomen. But in the West, in Western culture, we have pretty much forgotten the importance of creating an inviting, sustaining, nurturing environment for a baby to conceive, live and grow in for those 9 months. However, many ancient cultures, Mexicans, Mayans, Koreans, Chinese, others, many others, they all employed some sort of bodywork or cleansing practice, preparation practice that was handed down from generation to generation, specifically to increase the likelihood of conceiving and having a healthy pregnancy and baby. And why these practices are so effective is they increase blood flow and oxygen, nutrients to the reproductive organs. They bring life force to the ovaries and the eggs. And they physically prepare the womb and the abdomen for baby. They release tension, break up scar tissue, loosen ligaments. And as they detox the colon and the surrounding organs, they just create a more receptive environment for conception and for the reproductive system to receive and grow your baby. And believe it or not, they can also reposition your organs to the correct alignment, and that even includes the uterus. And so what I want you to consider as I show you this next slide is where the reproductive organs sit. And there they are in the bottom of the pelvic bowl. And so for most of our lives, the reproductive organs are sitting, if you like, in the dark, pretty much forgotten about. All the other organs are weighing down on top of them. Specifically, or most specifically, the colon. And in order to bring these organs, if you like, back to life, and they need to be brought back to life, they need to be brought back to life, given life, to carry life, we need to do some work. And these practices, particularly massage, particularly detoxing practices, they really, really assist to energize, activate, bring circulation, bring life force back to the reproductive system. And this is very important because if you can imagine, this is an organ that's been sitting in our bodies, and you know, if it's primary infertility, this organ has never really been used before, and it needs to be brought back to life in order to sustain and grow and carry a baby. And for the first many years that I was massaging in my practice, and we were helping lots and lots of women to open their bodies to conceive, I never really thought too much about it. I just thought, yeah, of course, this makes sense. You know, massage the body, get blood moving, circulation moving, get the lymph moving. You know, through massage, the body detoxes itself. It just made sense. And so I never really questioned it. It felt like a very natural, normal idea for me. But it wasn't until I started to see how many people struggled conceiving that I thought, well, this is interesting. And particularly when people were becoming pregnant, having tried other modalities like IVF. So for whatever reason, the IVF didn't work. But once you brought life force, energy, circulation, blood back to the reproductive organs, people could conceive without any problem whatsoever. And so these very simple practices, I believe, are just the most effective way for you to literally prepare your baby's first room and create this quite optimal environment for the baby to implant and grow. And around the massage, there are various detoxing protocols. There's also, of course, water. I mean, water is something that's probably not even considered that much on the journey to fertile health and conception. But consider this, we are 70% plus water. A man's sperm is 96% water. When an embryo is created, it's 80-90% water. And so we need water. The body needs water to create a baby and to create the right environment for that to happen. And if the body, and this is really important to remember as well, if your body is dehydrated, and once you sense dehydration in your mouth, you're already been dehydrated for quite some time. So if the body is dehydrated, the organ that's going to suffer is the reproductive organs. Why? Because it's the only organ in the body that is not required for us to survive. Water will go to the brain, the heart, the lungs, all the other organs first. The reproductive organs, which need water so badly, will be the last to receive water. So keep that in mind and drink your 2 liters of water every single day. Also eat lots and lots of live foods, because live foods are full of fiber, and we need fiber going through the system to clean the system out. It's like a sweeping brush for the digestive system and the systems of elimination. Just eat lots and lots of fresh fruit and vegetables, get that fiber going through the body, and it's a way of detoxing the body and making sure that you have a good environment, a clean environment for your baby to conceive, live and grow in. Once you activate these protocols, there is often just an ease to conceiving. There's the ability to have a full-term healthy pregnancy, but more than that, there is the certainty in having a full-term healthy pregnancy. Often when people become pregnant, there is a lot of fear, but if you do this preparation work prior, you have a confidence and a knowing that you've done everything you can to carry a baby full-term and indeed to have a healthy baby. Now, I think this sort of work is for everyone, and it doesn't matter whether you're at the beginning of your pregnancy journey, you've had a short delay or a long delay, you've had an infertility diagnosis of some kind, and I think it's especially important if we are older, because, you know, we've got more to undo in the body if we've been around longer. So spring cleaning the baby's first room is, to my mind, absolutely critical when it comes to preparing for pregnancy. But not only that, it just makes you feel good in yourself. It gives you action steps. It gives you the doing steps daily to prepare this environment. And, you know, for most people, they want to create a beautiful room for their baby. So they do it with love and joy. But not only that, it connects you more to your own body. It gives you a greater understanding of your own body. And once you have that, you know, you're going to have a greater understanding of this little person that you're bringing into the world and their body and how to look after them. So it's a self-care, self-love, self-nurturing act to do all this work. But it also, I believe, gives you confidence as you create another human being and bring them into the world. And ultimately, they're going to depend on you for their health and well-being. So the more you know about you, the more that you can know about them. Now, this brings me to something that's rarely spoken about when it comes to fertile health, and is also rarely spoken about when it comes to overall health, but it is imperative to both. But just earlier I showed you the slide where the colon and the small intestines really sit quite heavily on top of the reproductive organs, and it's really important when we are creating an environment to conceive that we have as clean a colon as possible, as empty a colon as possible. Now, a couple of 100 years ago, somebody came up with the ridiculous invention, the seated toilet. And when I say ridiculous, it's ridiculous because it just has caused so many health problems in the Western world. Everything from minor constipation to chronic constipation to irritable bowel to all the various bowel issues, colon cancer, Crohn's disease. It is impacting all of those. The 2/3 of the world where the people still squat to release do not have or experience these bowel issues, these bowel-related issues on such a chronic level. In fact, the incidence there is quite low. So, also something to consider is that in the parts of the world where fertility rates are the highest, and they are high, are the parts of the world where people still squat to release as well. There will be other factors impacting on that, which I will speak about shortly, but they are emptying the colon properly daily. And I'm just going to give you a really quick lesson as to why this is so important. A couple of 100 years ago, the Western seated toilet came into play. The physicians at the time, it was mainly in the UK, it started in England, were very concerned about the impact this would have on the health of the masses. They feared a lot of what was to happen, everything from hemorrhoids to cancers to constipation, you name it. So today, we don't know any different in the Western world. We just assume it's how we're meant to go to the loo. But the thing is, when you sit on a toilet to go to the bathroom, there is a kink in the descending colon which remains engaged. And it doesn't disengage when you sit down. This kink is there to hold waste matter in. And that kink remains when you sit. The only way to release that kink is to get the knees up above the hips, the colon straightens, and then everything flows, which you'll see in this slide here. Obviously, we can't all go back to squatting in our homes, but what we can do, and it's a very simple, very effective, And a very inexpensive fix is you can use a bathroom footrest of some sort. You can make your own, you can buy one, they're on the internet. But this will change your bathroom habits in a way that you probably would never have expected or indeed experienced. But literally just raising up the feet so the knees are above the hips, opens up the body so it can release as it was perfectly designed to release in the squat position. What you'll find is that your bathroom visits are quicker, they're easier, they're more complete, and there's no time wasted. There's no stressing, straining, or pushing. At least there shouldn't be. And once you do this for a week or so, it'll become a habit that you will never want to stop in your life. And now also on this point, something I'd really like you to take into consideration as you're on the path to have a child is, you know, if you've ever seen a child in a nappy and they just walk in front of you and they sort of squat down, do their business, stand up and keep walking. A child is so in touch with its primal self, its real self, that until it's potty trained, inverted commas, it intuitively squats to do its number twos. Intuitively, it doesn't think about it, nobody's told them, it's just what they do. And again, in those parts of the world where people still squat to release, they have the highest rates of fertile health. And they also don't experience the plethora of bowel issues that we have in the West. One of the easiest and quickest things you can do to help reclaim your fertile health is start using a bathroom footrest every time you go to do a number two. So, as I said, buy one, get one. Start today, make one, make it happen. It is imperative. At any given time, most people in the West are carrying at least 3 to 4 kilos of unreleased waste matter in the bowel. And that waste matter, when it's not coming out easily, can actually attach to the bowel wall. It can erode the bowel wall. We can have leaching of the bowel wall, toxins coming out and going into all the other organs, including, of course, the reproductive organs, which it is sitting right on top of. So to have a clean bowel is an imperative. So drink lots of water, drink 2 liters a day, eat fibrous food. It is the fiber in live food is the sweeping brush for the bowel. And so as you're preparing for pregnancy, so for example, if you were on the pill for years, you may think that that's detoxed from your system, but unless you're eating a diet that is helping your bowel detox properly, the hormonal effects of that pill could be still circulating in your system. And one of the ways to make sure that it's out is to eat lots of fresh live foods with lots of fiber, to use a bathroom footrest every time you go to the loo, and to drink lots of water. Alrighty. This brings me to Layla, who was a client who came to me a couple of years ago, and she had tried with her partner for a year or so to become pregnant. And she was very fearful about her age, actually. She, as I said, they tried for a while and they had decided that they would, next stop, go for IVF. And the fears that came up over the last year, and of course, you know, the fears and stresses of everyday life. I mean, we're all in states of stress about all areas of our life. You know, when it comes to pregnancy and not conceiving easily, the stresses of all kinds get compounded. So when she came to work with me, my first realization is that the abdomen was very rigid, very inflexible, cold. I could feel that this long-term stress that she'd been through had taken a toll on her body. We dived into doing the massage work, the cleansing work, the spring cleaning, and I invited her to see her garden, her body as a fertile garden, and it becoming more and more fertile, this beautiful garden, so that when the time was right, she could receive her partner's sperm. And this is what happened. She went on quite soon after to conceive and then grow their beautiful baby girl. But it was very obvious to me straight away, like literally to the touch, that this body, her body, needed some help. It needed some assistance to open up. There was no circulation there. There was no warmth. The reproductive organs needed blood. They needed energy. They needed life force. And through doing the detoxing, the massaging, some detox protocols, that all happened very, very quickly and changed their lives. So, this brings me to something very, very interesting, and that's using hypnotherapy to help people who are struggling with fertility. And I'm using a style of hypnotherapy called rapid transformational therapy, which is amazing because the creator of that, this methodology, has been using it for many years to help people with all sorts of challenges, but also for fertility. So it's been used for the last 20 years to help people overcome fertility challenges. And what's so amazing about it is it explains the unexplained. It gives you the why. So in my 20 years of being a therapist, this is without doubt the most powerful way, or in fact could even be the only way I've really discovered to uncover the root cause and the reason that somebody is not becoming pregnant. When we tap into the subconscious mind, we can uncover why. What's the limiting belief held in the subconscious? What's the fear that's blocking somebody from moving forward with their family life and becoming pregnant? But not only that, during a session we can also replace these old, outdated beliefs with new beliefs so that the client can and will become pregnant easily and quickly. Now, this method is so effective that often clients conceive within their next cycle. Of course, for others it may take a few months. Again, we are all different. And you might be wondering, well, what subconscious fears and beliefs are you talking about? And I'll just explain what some of them may be here. So, at the very beginning, I showed you that diagram. The lifetime cycle of a woman being conditioned to fear pregnancy. So, we've got these decades, years, priming the body to avoid pregnancy, to fear pregnancy, to protect against pregnancy. It's all fine, it's all perfect, too young, career time, wrong person, etc. Just an observation, not a criticism. But there's also the past pregnancy scares. We've mentioned those. But there are also massive fears, again, very understandable. There are massive fears out there around birth. And when we look at the horrific depictions on TV or film, it is not something to look forward to according to those depictions, which is not necessarily the truth at all, but that is another story. But it's causing a lot of subconscious fear. There's also past traumatic birth. If it's secondary fertility, a past traumatic birth could now be impacting the ability to conceive. Again, the mind's job is to keep us safe and away from pain. It could also be our own traumatic birth. And, there are cases where people have had, a lot of trauma coming onto this planet. And who knows what they may have decided back then. They would never put themselves through that again. They would never do that to another person. Who knows? So, but these are the things that we can uncover with a rapid transformational therapy session. Something that I come up with a lot in working with my clients is a fear of rejection. There's a lot of people out there for whom their own childhoods was not necessarily a happy time. It wasn't particularly joyful. They experienced a lot of rejection from parents or family. And they now have a fear of either them rejecting their child or the child rejecting them. And, it may sound unreasonable. It may sound far out, far-fetched. But this is something that, to my experience of working with clients, is a lot more common than people know. There's also fears around loss. Of course, if somebody has a miscarriage, there could be, understandably, the fear of that happening again. But there's also the fear around miscarriage, even from people who've never conceived, because there is, in our society, so much fear around that loss. We don't tell anybody for the first 3 months once we do become pregnant because of miscarriage. And also, there may be the loss of a sibling at birth, a twin. There may be the loss of somebody in their lives, and they just, for whatever reason, equate the potential for loss through getting pregnant again. So your mind's job is to keep you alive and away from pain. It's really important to understand that, because if it believes that you becoming pregnant is going to cause you pain in any way, it could well be preventing you from becoming pregnant. Anna was a client who, despite being young, happy, healthy, she could not become pregnant. Month after month, they tried, nothing happened. So it turned out that we uncovered that as a 4-year-old, she went out shopping with her mum, and she saw a pregnant woman. Later that day, she came home and she thought it would be funny. Her little mind, child's mind, decided it'd be very funny to stick a pillow up her jumper and show her mum that she was pregnant. Now, for whatever reason, her mother reacted really, really badly to her little girl pretending to be pregnant. And from what came up in the session, the reaction was quite fierce. And so somewhere in her mind, from that story, she decided it was never going to be safe for her to be pregnant. So once we had that knowledge, it was easy for her to see she wasn't infertile. She'd held a childhood belief that it was not safe for her to be pregnant. It was going to mean anger and rejection. And so that belief was thankfully acknowledged, transformed, and it was, we conditioned a new belief where it's totally safe, pleasurable, and exciting for her to be pregnant soon. And that is exactly what happened soon after, and she went on to have her little girl. So, what are you carrying around pregnancy? What story did you pick up as a child? What did you hear as a child? What did you see as a child? What did you experience as a child? And you may have no conscious memory of anything, but the subconscious will know exactly what it is. If there's something there, the subconscious will know it and will find it. And that's why, for me, RTT is such a breakthrough methodology. I thought I had it all sewn up with the massage, the detoxing, diets, mindset work, But no, I realized I was actually missing something, and it was a very big piece of the puzzle and being able to help people actually move through fertility challenges really quickly. With this methodology, we just solve the mystery as to what's been stopping conception, and that, again, happens very, very quickly. It's just a 2-hour session. Within the first half an hour, we know what the block is. Then we can recondition these subconscious blocks and delays, reprogram the body and the mind for amazing fertility, phenomenal fertility, because the mind believes everything you tell it. It believes everything you think, everything you say, everything you visualize. And so we give it new ideas, new visualizations, and new belief that you can conceive easily and you can carry your baby healthily to full term. And this can dramatically improve your ability to conceive naturally. Why? Because it removes so much of the unknown. It removes so much fear, and it allows you to look forward with an expectation, a positive expectation, rather than a fearful or negative expectation. So keep that in mind, the hypnosis RTT session. So whether it's an unexplained infertility diagnosis or any diagnosis, if there's endometriosis in the body, why is that there? Let's use the RTT session to go in and find out why that is there. These things don't materialize in the body for no reason. They are there for a very specific reason. And again, in my experience as a practitioner, as a therapist, anything created in the body comes either to protect us or to punish us. One or the other. The mind is incredibly interesting. The body is incredibly interesting. There are a lot of mysteries to it. But one of the ways we can dissolve and resolve those mysteries is through this breakthrough hypnosis methodology. Fear. Fear and stress and expecting the worst happen, sadly, I believe, just way too quickly in the journey to creating a child. And, you know, as I've been looking at pregnancy over the years, I just feel that we are just primed for fear. And again, going back to that, the life cycle of a woman around pregnancy, you know, from a very young age, we are primed for fear. However, when we get into our 30s or so, the fear shifts from having to not having. And so once we get to the point where we're ready, the fears that come up are the fears that we've left it too late, we're too old, we're not healthy enough, we're not well enough, we don't have enough eggs, they're not of good enough quality. If we don't become pregnant quickly, something is terribly, terribly wrong. Fear it may not happen ever. The mind is set up to fear the worst, to expect problems. We have to turn this thinking on its head. Because whether people really realize it or not, stress, fear, it's a contraceptive. Human beings are not designed to procreate when we are stressed or in fear. When we're in fight or flight, this is a time to literally survive. In fight, flight or flee, your body produces the hormones of stress, adrenaline and cortisol. The heart rate increases, blood is pumped to the limbs, literally so we can run or fight and survive another day. So when we're in fear or stress, again, the reproductive organs literally become redundant. They are not relevant to survival. They receive zero energy. On top of all that, we live in a time where we are daily in stress or fear. We're stressing about jobs, money, homes, mortgages, relationships, bosses, staff, illness, world unrest, state of the planet. On top of that, when it occurs that we can't conceive easily, a whole new fear grows and it exacerbates. And it compounds this fear problem, this stress problem around fertility even more. And just a quick run through of the things that really kick age. I mean, yes, more people are choosing to have children later in life. Personally, I think it's a great thing. I think most people aren't ready when they're younger. So coming to it when you've lived some life is fantastic. So we're choosing to have children later in life. And yes, your fertility, your fertile health decreases over time. However, the body is very, very forgiving, and given the right conditions, you can rejuvenate and regenerate your body. Chronologically, you may be, 35. Biologically, you might be 30. Chronologically, you might be 40. If you've looked after yourself or you decide just to do a really great overhaul, you can reduce your biological age. And there's so much you can do. If age does not have to become the fear factor that it's peddled as. And so, we also get the compounding fears of those around us, fears pushed on by the medical profession, which have become so extreme that even women in their 20s and their early 30s are consumed by whether they've left it too late. There's diagnosis fear. That is a big one. when somebody in a white coat with a stethoscope tells you you are infertile. When you let that in, when you allow yourself to think I am infertile, that becomes a very, very difficult place to be. And when we have the fear hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, coursing through the body cannot conceive. That is not a state to conceive in. So, how do we overcome these fears and stresses around pregnancy? How do we overcome a situation where most people fall into expecting the worst rather than the best? And I believe it's through doing to conceive. Taking action. Taking proven, decisive, creative action daily. Research shows that our brains can only focus on one thing at a time, and if we're in the act of doing, fear fades away. So action, doing, leads to confidence, and fear just dissipates because it's not being fed. If you're giving all your attention to doing certain practices to improve your fertile health, to enhance your fertile health, if you are doing certain practices to bolster your mindset, to get yourself into a state where you can expect the best rather than the worst, there becomes your focus. And when you're focusing on that, the focus on fear has to fade away. It's going to be one or the other. But it's about taking daily action, taking proven action, and I believe having a system to follow makes that really, really easy. But first up, you can spring clean your baby's first room through your diet, through water, through proper elimination daily. You could have a hypnosis session and uncover the root cause of the delay. Why is there a delay? Why is there a block? What is the block? Where did it come from? Knowledge is power. Once you have that knowledge, you can transform those beliefs. You can let go of old, negative, outdated beliefs and recondition the mind, reprogram the mind with positive new beliefs, where you can actually go forward and expect the best. Leading me into mindset. Once you expect the best, you take different actions daily and you have different outcomes. An example of expecting the best with mindset is, committing to drinking 2 liters of water every day. Drink 2 liters of water with a pinch of good Celtic sea salt that allows the body to uptake the water rather than it just passing through. And you're doing this because you're preparing your body for pregnancy. As I mentioned before, our bodies are over 70% water. When a baby is first created, they're about 80-90% water. They're created from water. Start now. Start preparing yourself to create the perfect environment for your baby to live and grow in. And so when you expect the best, when you expect to have your baby, when you see your baby in your mind's eye, you take better actions and you're going to get new outcomes because of that. So, doing to conceive, yet again, it's about taking action. It's giving the mind action steps. It's giving the body action steps. It's bolstering your confidence that you can do this. It's not wishy-washy wishing. It's doing. It's taking action and realizing that you have everything within your body to conceive and grow a baby. Kim realized after a period of trying that there was a block, that something was stopping her from becoming pregnant. And when we did the session, it came up that as a teenager, and again, this is going back to the sort of life cycle of how we learn about pregnancy and babies. So when she was a teenager, her mother was quite terrorizing in telling her not to become pregnant. And we don't know why that was, but it probably had something to do with her background. But also her early childhood, there was a lot of rejection from her own family,
unhappy parents, etc. And anyway, when it came to her being a teenager and, you know, getting out and having boyfriends, she was just put under a lot of pressure that, you know, she would be abandoned, rejected, etc. should she ever bring the shame on the family, or indeed another mouth to feed. So she was conditioned to believe that she would be treated really harshly, rejected, abandoned, should she ever become pregnant. Now, not only did this belief stop her becoming pregnant later in life, but it actually stopped her having sex until she was in her mid-20s, because she was so fearful that she would be the one who would become pregnant. It's amazing how the mind works. So as soon as she had knowledge of this fear, and this is again where knowledge is power. Knowledge about yourself is like the ultimate power. It just ended very quickly years of struggle. And once that struggle ended, she knew that she'd found the reason. She knew that she'd found the underlying cause. And because of that, quite soon after, I mean, it was so freeing for her to know this. She could allow herself, you know, some joy even knowing this, to believe the best even knowing this. And of course through the session, reprogrammed her to know that it was safe now for her to have a child, that she could totally enjoy having a child. It was going to be a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for her to have a child. And she went on to have her little girl pretty soon after. So to recap, there are many practical steps that you can take right now that will immediately help you to start to overcome any fertility challenge and bring you closer to having your beautiful baby. And also, I think it's important to really get and acknowledge that this is your dream, this is your life, this is your desire. And as you reject the opinion, the diagnosis, because you realize it's an opinion, it's not a truth, that you are reclaiming your dream. You are not taking no for an answer. You know, there is no plan B. There is plan A, which is to have your baby. So it's about focusing on what you want and not focusing at all on what you don't want. The universe gives us what we expect, and we need to be really careful and know that we get what we expect, and focus on that. Focus on what you want. And as you do that, you know, it's very easy to say reject the diagnosis, reject the opinion, but now it's possible because you know that there are steps that you can take. There is the doing to conceive that you can do through massage, either getting somebody else to do it for you, doing it yourself. You could do energy and breath work, which we didn't even go into today, but that's a whole other area. Anything, the cleansing work, the massage work, anything to bring life force back to your womb, to bring it back to life so it can create life and it can carry life. Also, do the doing of spring cleaning your baby's first room. Do the detox protocols. Cleanse through water. Use a bathroom footrest. Have colonics even. Get into having a clean, live fruit and veg, nutritarian diet. And there's also fasting protocols that you can do, which are not difficult to do, particularly if it's, for example, intermittent fasting, where you just eat for a certain window, during a certain window of time every single day. And then there's, believe to conceive. Find out the why you have had a block to conceiving today, what that's been about. Use the knowledge now around hypnosis, and particularly rapid transformational therapy hypnosis. To get into the right mindset is to expect the best. We can only create what we focus on. It's not possible to focus on to create anything else. So where your mind is going is what you're creating. And once you really realize that, don't beat yourself up. It's just take a step back. What can I do so I can focus on what I really want? What's going to give me the ability to do that? You know, what's going to empower me to do that? And then there are 5 simple things that you can start today, literally today, and you can start reclaiming your fertile health straight away. Hydrate. Can't emphasize the importance of water for so many reasons. We're made of water. Your baby is made of water. We need water to detox the body, and we need water to hydrate the body. You need to be drinking enough water every single day so that that water actually even gets to your reproductive organs. So 2 liters every day with a pinch of good salt, and use clean water, pure water, filtered water. If you don't have access to that, at least leave 2 liters out overnight and let the water sit, and let some of the chemicals in that water start to evaporate overnight. Alright, proper elimination. Again, water is going to help with that. Eating fibrous foods. Your diet must contain live foods. Live foods, live bodies. Live foods carry energy, vitality, life force, and we are what we eat. So eat energy, eat vitality, eat life force, eat for fertility, eat in color, and you know, surrender denatured foods as much as possible. Also use a bathroom footrest. That is critical. Buy something, make something. Just needs to be about 22 centimeters, 24 centimeters, and you're good to go, literally. Live foods, just mentioned that. So no more denatured foods. Have a positive mindset. You know, if you do an RTT session, if you clear the limiting beliefs, any negative conditioning from the past that's holding you back from conceiving and having your baby, you will from there have an audio to listen to for 21 days or longer. You can keep listening to that audio until you conceive, and it's reconditioning, reprogramming your mindset to believe that you are fertile, to know that you are fertile, and that's essentially creating the right mental environment for you to believe and conceive. And I almost forgot, sex in the right position. And what would that position be? I'm sure many of you probably guessed it straight away. So it's doggy style, and doggy style is the position that allows the man to deposit the sperm right next to the cervix. So think of it as DIY, IUI. And IUI is where the sperm is a medical procedure where the sperm is deposited as close to the cervix as possible. And we do it naturally through rear entry sex. Why is it so important? Because if the sperm is deposited close to the cervix, it means it's essentially closest to the egg. It doesn't have to travel so far. It doesn't get worn out. It doesn't have as much terrain to navigate to get to its destiny. It retains energy, vitality. It needs a lot of energy. It needs, a lot of energy basically to crack through that egg once it gets there. So the closer it can be deposited to the sperm, to the cervix, the better. And it just means its journey is going to be shorter. It's going to have more energy. So just as we're not going to the bathroom properly, and we've sort of denatured ourselves there, we're not using the correct position for the most successful outcome for conceiving. And just remember that the missionary position was literally created by the missionaries because they thought that these types of positions were too bestial for their subjects. So get back to another position that we were designed perfectly to procreate in this position. And if we look to our friends in the animal world, there's a lot of animals who also use this position as well. It is not by accident, it is by design. So use this knowledge and allow yourself to move forward with your pregnancy, with conceiving, and have fun doing it. So thank you so much for coming today. Thank you so much for listening, and I really hope you got a lot of value out of the last hour. And I'd really like to encourage you to get in touch if you do have any questions. So you know, a lot would have come up. There's a lot of information there, but yes, if you do have any questions, if you have any feedback, even love to hear from you. And lastly, just really want to encourage you to get in touch if you would like coaching on your fertility journey, because this is the most extraordinary, the most important journey of your life. And just as we get coached through many things in our lives, this is an area where coaching can really help us succeed. And the reason for that is because it's support. You know, with coaching, you have new ideas, you have accountability and support. And of course, right now, if you're totally honest, you will have lots of new ideas that you would never have come across if you hadn't listened to this presentation. So I will let you know that there are several ways that I can assist if you do want assistance. There's the coaching program, Reclaim Your Fertility, which happens over 8 weeks, or indeed you stay with me until you conceive. And that includes 3 hypnosis sessions, the online program, live coaching sessions twice a week, and a private Facebook support group. Other women exactly like you in the same position who are on the journey to reclaim their fertile health, to be empowered, to really get back into the knowing that they can do this, and supporting each other to the dream of having their babies and having their families. There are smaller versions of that we can do, or indeed if you just want to do a single RTT session, 1 2-hour hypnotherapy session to uncover the why, what that block is, and from there move forward with your own fertility journey program, that's fine. And also letting you know that in the next 3 to 4 months I will be releasing the book of my program called Doing to Conceive. And lastly, I'm well aware that so much can come up when you're watching a presentation like this, you know. So many questions, so many ideas, and, you know, the wondering of this, you know, can any of this work for you? Will this work for your unique challenge? So I do offer a free baby breakthrough call, and that's a 45-minute call to see which option could work for you. And, you know, we'll just chat through exactly where you are now. If I feel that I can help you, if I feel that the program is right for you, I will invite you into the program. If I feel that a single RTT session is enough with everything else that you're doing, because you don't want to overwhelm yourself either, we can chat through that. But you're more than welcome to have a session with me, and we can find out the best way for you to go from here. So thank you again for joining me today. If you want to book a session, then just go on to reclaimyourfertility.com/apply, and there you can book a phone session with me. So I look forward to speaking with you very, very soon, and really wish you well on your journey to create your beautiful baby and your wonderful family. Thank you.